Hello, welcome to this video. I am so excited to be back. I haven't posted a video in so long and I'm excited to be doing a knitting video. I have had these fingerless gloves since I was about 14. I didn't wear fingerless gloves. I wore them to take up space in sweaters where the arms were too big because I wore a lot of clothes that were too big for me. And as you can see, there's some issues. So I've got this mystery garter stitch line, and then it's supposed to look like an owl on the front. Kind of looks like an owl right here. On this one, I made some mistakes and had some more mystery garter stitch going on. The bottom, like, pretty good mini cable thingy for an early knit, but either way, I was going through my knitted stuff and looking at things and saying, you know, I don't need that. And I was thinking, I'm not gonna Goodwill these, no one's gonna want them. You ever give something to Goodwill and hope to God that someone wants it because you're like, otherwise it's gonna get thrown away. This would get thrown away at a Goodwill. No one would, even if you'd knit this and wear it yourself, great, but would you buy it from a Goodwill? Would you exchange currency for these? No. So I was thinking, you know, what am I gonna do, throw them away? No, I can unravel them. Now, these are 100% wool, so this is gonna be a task because they're pilled as hell. And I've never done this before. So I saw an Edith's Corner video where she unraveled a crocheted thing from a thrift store, and I was just inspired. So thank you, Edith's Corner. If you ever see this video, you inspired me to unravel my own knitting. I'm gonna go ahead and get to that. I'm gonna do this in 3 steps. I'm going to first cut off all the pills. Then I'm going to attempt to unravel, do my best. If I have to like snip, I'll snip. It's not a big deal. Then my 3rd step is gonna be to wind it into a skein and put it in water so that I can kind of de-kink it. I think that will work. And then obviously I'm gonna dry it. So I guess that's 4 steps and 5 if you separate the rolling and unkinking. But I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Now I'm gonna go get a bowl and some water and some scissors. Okay, I am back with my scissors and my gloves, and I'm going to, I think from here forward, I'm gonna switch to the table view so that you can see what I'm doing instead of just listening to me talk about it. Okay, so I finished depilling. They're definitely not perfect. They've got a little bit of fuzz still left on them, like a lot of spots that just look like that, you know, just fluffy, fuzzy spots. I don't think that I could get all of those off. So I'm just gonna start unraveling them. So the way that I'm going to, okay, this is coming out so easily. The way that I'm gonna start wrapping these is in a way that is not professional, but I don't ever roll my yarn into skeins because I always just use it right after. I'm gonna roll it onto my laptop. So we're gonna go here. And then what I'm gonna do is just at the very end, I'm just gonna tie a little tie around the top and the bottom. And then that way I can put it in the water and it won't get, you know, in a big tangle. I'm not just gonna put a pile of yarn in the water. And I'm gonna switch views now. And we figured it out. Actually very satisfying in a way, but I have a feeling that if you showed this video to my 14-year-old self who was sitting before Christmas, I really like this method of rolling a skein. It's so, this is sized so nicely. When I do it on a chair, I have to walk around in circles. Now, this is half of a skein. One glove is about half a skein, but. All right, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that piece that I just cut off. Oh, it's under the table. And I'm gonna cut little small pieces off of it so that I can tie the ends. So for example, stick this behind the yarn, tie a knot here to keep the ends down. I'm gonna do probably 3 just to make sure. I think that's probably overkill. All right, and 3, that's plenty. So I'm gonna slide this off and I have this. It's spaghetti-esque. I've got my bowl. I'm just gonna submerge it in this water. I'm gonna pause the video and Google what in the world I'm supposed to do next with this nonsense.
You want to make sure that this skein that you've created does not unravel or doesn't get tangled. And how you do that
We're good.
is by, do not agitate it while it's in the water. Do not think you have to pull on it. All you're doing is letting it rest.
Okay.
And when
no agitation, noted. If you're interested, you can check out that video that I just watched, which is called How to Reclaim Yarn That Has Been Knit. This is supposed to be a warm bath. I'm really counting on this yarn not understanding what hot and cold is, because I'm gonna leave it in cold water. I'm also the person who in her bellish sweater video noted that she did not make a swatch or block her sweater. So I'm not here about technique. We're just knitting. So while this sits, she said it could soak for 15 minutes to all day. So I'm gonna let it soak for at least 15 minutes, and in the meantime, I'm gonna unravel this one. So I'm not gonna show it this time. I think you got the gist off the last one, and I will be right back. Here I am with our second bunch of spaghetti. This looks a lot smaller than the other one because I did this one on the table instead of the laptop because I was watching videos while I did it. So next step is I'm going to take this one, which has stopped bubbling. I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna put it in a towel in my bathroom and roll it up and squish all the water out of it in a way that is going to not felt it. So I'm gonna take you with me. I don't know how in the world I'm gonna set this camera up in my bathroom, but we will figure something out. Okay, so maybe not the best angle, but trying so hard not to agitate this. The lady on the video, I believe her last name was Brunette, instructed that I just squeeze the water out without wringing it and then roll it up in a towel, which that's what I do with my wool sweaters. So I am familiar with the process. Okay, look how flat that is. It still looks really curly in the in this thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and roll this up while this is filling. We're changing angles. All that I did, here's my little yarn donut, and I'm just gonna fold that over the top and then roll it. And then I'm gonna press it, but I'm gonna wait until I get the other one in the water. I'm back. So I have now squished the water out of this mostly. I mean, there's definitely still some water in there, but like I said, I don't really want to screw with it too much because I don't want it to felt. I'm gonna do what I did with the other one.
I'm gonna fold the top over, and then I'm gonna roll it. And this one's sticking out just a little bit. So I'm gonna tuck that in.
And now I have these two little yarn burritos. I'm gonna press these a little bit. So now I'm just gonna take this and I'm gonna hang it. Ugh. Smells like wet wool. I will likely be back, not today, but tomorrow, working on whatever I decide I want to make with my new flat, unraveled, repurposed yarn. And I'm very excited. I actually gave it a new life. I was worried that I was gonna have to throw those things away until I realized, like, oh, you know what? I could just use them again. So I will see you tomorrow or possibly next week, depending on when time happens for me. Hello, and we're back. I did finish doing the yarn. I did finish drying the yarn. I hung both of them on my mirror, and then it's been a week and a half, but in the meantime, I have knitted a big old bunch of separate swatches with this yarn. Why did I do that? I will explain. I was in a bookstore in Maine about a month ago, and I was waltzing through and I saw the craft section, and I stopped because I don't know if you know about ericanite. I didn't know about ericanite, even though I had this book since I started knitting, but she has this book called Texture. I don't know how new it is. It looks new. It's beautiful. And I walked past it and had a fit of inspiration and all these thoughts about how I want to make patterns, and I want to create an item like this and have it have my name on it because it's beautiful. It made me think about how I know how to make a raglan sweater. I'm on my second one right now, although this one's giving me a lot more issues than my first one did. And even though I understand how its construction works, I want to understand better how I could use a new stitch, like basically just something that's not a stockinette stitch, in a raglan sweater. Color work in a raglan sweater makes sense to me. I feel like I could make up my own pattern and put it onto a raglan sweater and have it turn out nice. But for stitches, I feel like if I did anything harder than maybe like a traditional seed stitch, it would start to mess me up. I'd get confused about how to do increases if certain things didn't work out, etc. So I started thinking, you know, I really like texture, and I don't know if that's because I just saw a book that was beautiful that was called Texture, or if that's actually been true all along, but I wanted to practice some various stitches that are fun and new, and I found all of them in this book, which this is not an ad for this book, but that is where I got all these stitches. So I'm going to be showing you all the stitches that I did and going over them by name this time because I have my dictionary right below me, starting with probably this one took me the longest to figure out how to do, This is called the herringbone stitch. So I just read the pattern incorrectly at the beginning, but I really liked the picture of it. And I think it would look really nice on certain things, but I will say I don't know that I'd want an entire sweater done in this because it would take me years to complete. This is a time, at least for me, it was kind of a time-consuming stitch. What really helped me was learning to knit looser. I'm just such a tight knitter, so it was very difficult initially. Much easier on metal needles, much easier with loose stitches. So there's a tip for you. The second one, and actually these are in reverse order, but the second one is this sort of checkerboard pattern. Now this isn't their checkerboard stitch that they use in the book, and I'll fold the rest of the stitches up so you can't see any of the other ones. This is a slightly larger version of the same thing. It's easy to see. It's just purl 5, knit 5, purl 5, knit 5, purl 5, knit 5, etc. And I thought I would like this much better than I do. I am not a personal fan of this stitch, at least not on this yarn. It's possible that on a different yarn I would like it better. I thought that it was going to be a lot more poppy and just cuter than it ended up being. It just kind of looks messy to me, and maybe I screwed up with tension or something, or I don't know, I'm not a fan. So I don't think I'll be using that. The next one is called a slipped rib, which I have done before, but not in such a long time. I really like the way this looks, and it's actually not very ribby. It's more teardrop looking because it's stretchy but not like a rib. So I think this would be nice in a sweater. However, these loops are so big, they would catch on anything. And I have caught just regular plain stockinette stitches on stuff in my house. It makes me so sad every time it happens. And so I don't know if I would actually end up using this for much of a sweater. If I was going for something loud, maybe I could do like strips of different stitches and then I could do a slipped rib. But I really think that this is gonna flourish most in something where, like, if this entire thing was a slipped rib and I had done a slipped rib scarf, I think this would be beautiful. But I don't think that a short little piece of it like that really does it justice. So maybe I would use this in a sweater. My next one, and this is one of my absolute favorites, this is seed stitch. This is so easy. It's just a knit and then a purl and then a knit and then a purl, and then the next year you just do the opposite. If you like knitting and you have never done a seed stitch, I think it looks good on everything. I made so many seed stitch scarves and they're all my favorite. It's just more interesting than a garter stitch and a stockinette stitch curls. This doesn't curl, this is lovely. So I only did a seed stitch because I obviously know that I like a seed stitch. The only reason I did it is because the first stitch I did when I first started this yarn was a tweed stitch, which I had been looking at in this book. It looks like this. And I had been thinking that looks like a tighter, neater seed stitch, which also, by the way, seed stitch in this book is referred to as a moss stitch if you're actually looking in the same book that I am. But after I finished it, I was like, yeah, I mean, it does look like a really tight seed stitch. What do they look like next to each other? So the only reason I did the seed stitch was to actually put that question to the test and see which was which and did they look very different. And this is tighter, this is stretchier. That's the thing I noticed, not by a lot, but a little bit. But ultimately, they do not look very different, and seed stitch was a lot less work to do. It was, and I don't know, maybe muscle memory, but if you're trying to get more bang for your buck, this is gonna, I would do a seed stitch still, I think. There's something about the tweed stitch I like a little better, but not enough better to do it instead of a seed stitch when a seed stitch is just so easy. So I'm very happy that I got a chance to experiment with some different textures, because I think probably on my next raglan sweater, maybe for my next raglan, I will be confident enough to experiment with a new type of stitch going all the way down. I think a seed stitch would be really simple, but I would like to experiment with other types of stitches that are a little less easy to just go do, because it's just knit, purl, knit, purl. It's very simple. So that is all for this video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.